I really like the business of land. I like it a lot in that it's just, there's no emotion with it usually. Usually people are just, hey, we've had this in our family for a long time, don't need it, don't use it. You can take it off our hands. You're not evicting tenants. You're not having to deal with people moving out their junk usually. There's usually nothing on the land. So you can just buy it and sell it. Welcome back to REI Hot Seat. Andrew Hines here for a solo episode because the rest of the team sort of abandoned me this week. So everybody's busy, and I took this as an opportunity to talk a little bit about what I've been up to. So ever since I quit the podcast or stopped creating and releasing new episodes of the podcast back in August, I haven't really had a whole lot of monologues, and having an opportunity to sort of download and share my thoughts is something I've been missing a little bit. So gonna do that here because as you've probably observed, I don't really get to do a ton of talking on REI Hot Seat compared to the podcast, just with its longer form nature. And then we also have the panel here on REI Hot Seat, which I love, but this little piece has been missing for me. So anyways, we'll see where we go with that. But what I'm going to be talking about today is a deal that I recently closed in Florida. So we bought and sold it. At this point, we've actually had 3 properties that we've sold, closed, profitable. Every deal we've done has been profitable. Of course, that's by design because Matt and I are pretty darn choosy. For those of you who don't know, I have a business with my business partner, Matt Piche, and we buy and sell land and houses in Florida. And now we're just expanding into Texas. And at the moment, we have 6 full-time cold callers working for us, very expensive marketing machine, generating a ton of leads. And then we obviously buy the properties. And mostly what we're looking to do is just a quick and easy flip. So our angle really is make it on the buy. So what I'll do here is I'll show you the piece of land. So this is the actual piece of land. And when I saw it, you might be looking at this and thinking, well, how the heck do you know that's a good one? And how would you know that that's a piece of land you want to buy, Andrew? And what I'll say about that is, first off, I never visited this. I've never been to this piece of land. I've never even been to Georgetown, Florida. Maybe I have. Maybe I've been through or near it. I probably have been. But to my knowledge, no. Probably been within an hour of it. Anyways, we have a very wide marketing effort. So if we happen to get a lead in a certain area, we'll typically search by acreage. So we'll do a list for 5 to 10 acres in certain counties. So anywhere in that county, we could get a lead. And it's really... So our cold callers really just look for anyone willing to say yes. And then it comes to our acquisition team who call them up and try and close them. And this is one where the seller sort of expressed that she had a number that she wanted to make that worked for us, or we thought would work for us. We did our initial look and found out, hey, that's actually too much, and went back to her. And we were able to get this acquisition down. We purchased for right around... I think it was 27,000, if I'm not mistaken, 27,000. I have the profitability statement here. So, so 26,304 was our cost to close the deal. So that includes title insurance. It includes paying the title company to register the deed, all that. So that's actually the money we sent. So think of that in Ontario terms, like the money is sent to the lawyer. And that's how we calculate our profitability, is for like simplicity's sake. How much did we send to them? How much are we getting back? And then any expenses we spent along the way. So in this case, like, we never even paid a property tax bill. It's land, so there was no electric, there's no water bill to pay, nothing like that. Don't need to get insurance, it's just land. Actually, don't take that, that's not advice. Some people would say you should get insurance on land, and I totally see that. It certainly can be valid. And so we sold the property for, I think it was $53,000 after paying the realtor and paying the title company and all that stuff and the state transfer tax. We got $47,836.18. So date acquired, we acquired that one on June 25th. We disposed of the property on September 11th. And I add in a 30-day buffer on our funds just because we don't raise funds the day we close. We might raise funds a couple of weeks early. Obviously, it's never perfect when we're raising funds from our investors. So the amount we borrowed on this one was $30,000. Of course, we have money out all the time. So we might carry, money from one deal to another as we go. So what I do is I'll just, if I'm trying to calculate our profit loosely for a deal, I come up with a per diem. How long did we hold that property? And in this case, this one, the interest cost is about $1,000, $1,065. We had to pay a notary on the back end. It was approximately $130. That's because we're in Canada. So Matt and I have to sign. We're working on getting that down and also making it a lot more simple now that Matt and I have created an entity that we own together, so that now one of us either or can sign, or we can appoint somebody else altogether to sign the documents for us. So we're constantly looking for ways to just make it easier. Okay, so that all worked out to about $20,000 in profit on a 5-acre piece of land that I've never been to, I've never seen with my own eyes, but we have a good team that was able to go there. We got it listed, bought, sold, and everything done. $20,000 back into our account. And then, of course, we have to pay our acquisition managers. So they work on commission. So our acquisition manager, Alicia, got paid here just over $2,000. And then the remainder is for Matt and I, so $18,000. 303 at this point, really just going back into the company account to fund our marketing efforts and fund what we're doing going forward, because we got a lot going on right now, and we're waiting on some bigger deals to close. We had a deal that was supposed to close. Long story. We've been going through a real interesting experience there, which I'll get into once that's dust settled. So stay tuned for a future update when I really get into some crazy stories. I could probably write a book already with just what's happened in the state of Florida in the last year to me. So anyways, this is sort of how I keep organized. But going back to how did I pick this property and how did I know it was a good one, quote unquote, to buy? Well, when I look at it, so this was the initial screen I would have pulled up. I would have pulled up Zillow. I would have set up my filters for lots, and I'm just looking for what's sold. So set up my filters, 2 acres minimum. Normally I'd put on a max as well. So I don't want to compare it to 10-acre parcels typically, but that's the next bracket we have on here. So I'll put 10 as a max. And then I'll have to individually look at comps. So this is a 5-acre parcel, and buying it for, say, $26,000 as we did, we're looking to get things at 50 cents on the dollar. So what I'm really looking to do is say, can I confirm that market value of this is in the 50s? And I looked at a few comps, and there were some like this. So 53, that's ours. That's the one that just sold. And then we've got this other one. So we had one here sold at 26. Normally something like that's going to concern me. That's actually ours. That was us buying it. That's funny, actually. So that's us buying it at 26 and then selling it at 30 or at 53. So you can actually see our full flip there, which is hilarious. There were some others that I saw. So this was a 40 acre for 5.4. So that lot should absolutely concern me as a comp. If a 5 acre is selling for 40 grand, what am I doing buying one for 25? That's if you just look at it at surface value. What I was able to find, and I did expand my search metric a bit, is I went back a little further in time, and I was able to find a couple of others, and then I also looked at what was for sale on the market right now. But one of the biggest things I did was I confirmed the flood mapping on the property, and I found out that the one that sold in the 40s was covered in wetlands, covered in floodplain. Meanwhile, ours only has a tiny little bit of wetlands on the back corner. So essentially a far superior law in that regard, because you can't build on wetlands, you can't put anything on them, and you can't cross them for access to your property. So yes, they're good for recreation, but they're not good for building. So there is a valuation that typically realtors will apply, and it's subjective. What is dry land worth? So if you have 2 acres of dry land and 3 acres of wetland, you price them differently, and maybe the wetland's only worth 20% per acre of what the dry land's worth. So I did a deep dive at the time we acquired this back in June, and with what I could see in the last year that it sold, I saw some stuff selling in the 50s and some stuff selling even higher than that. And I concluded that we would sell likely around 55. I thought that's where we would be, but I thought worst case we go for 45 because we're still superior to that $40,000 lot. And I worked the math backwards and said, okay, we're not going to lose. For sure, we're not going to lose. I mean, unless something catastrophic happens and the market changes, there's no guarantees in life. But I was very confident that we should be coming in at 55, which that's our metric. Our metric is let's get it 50 cents on the dollar. And the reason we do that, and I certainly would prefer it on higher priced lots, because then you have way more margin, more ability to, you can flex 10 grand, and that's not a significant percentage of the total purchase price. But if we can hit our margin, we want to do those deals. So with these, typically we're not really looking to buy anything that's going to retail less than 50 grand. That's usually where I would say it's getting to the point where it's probably not worth our time. But if it's just super clean, like we just bought another one, it hasn't closed yet, but market value, we're probably going to list it at 28,000, and we're getting it for 12 or 11,000. And it's just one of those ones that it's like, it's no work. The odds of us losing money are like 1% or less, like 0.05%, something like that. And it's just, I'm of the position with those ones, and Matt and I will talk, hey, do we really want to do this? Is this really worth our time? And the response back is, well, how much time would it really be? We're gonna write, send a wire, and then we're gonna sign some documents, and then we're gonna get a wire back. And generally speaking, yeah, it's pretty minimal. So we're doing our best not to say no to deals. If it's a deal, we'll take it. But the sweet spot, in my opinion, is selling for 100, buying for around 50 or 40. Like, I like that area. There's a good spread. It really makes it worth the time. And so far, our closings have gone just bigger and bigger each time. So our first one was like $4,000 profit, just like a little double close. Normally we'd never do that, but it was just a proof of concept. Then we did like a $16,000 profit. And this one was like, 18. We've got another one that's coming up that's going to be, it's a house. It should have been around 140,000 after paying our acquisition manager. That one didn't close as scheduled, and I'll tell you the story. I'll go way into detail once we finally have some resolve on that one, but not yet. So anyways, that's just high level of one of the deals we're looking at. I mean, REI Hot Seat's a deal analysis show, so I figured why not just go into a deal? And I really like the business of land. I like it a lot in that it's just, there's no emotion with it usually. Usually people are just, hey, we've had this in our family for a long time. Don't need it. Don't use it. You can take it off our hands. You're not evicting tenants. You're not having to deal with people moving out their junk usually. There's usually nothing on the land. So you can just buy it and sell it. I will say one of the most important things to do is have somebody walk any piece of land you're ever going to buy. If you do get into this type of business, or you're doing this somewhere else in the States, or even doing it in Florida, never buy something that somebody you trust that you haven't had somebody you trust walk, because there could be encroachments. One of the things we had happen that killed a deal, and we were ready to buy it, was we had this great piece of land, 20 acres. We figured, based on a realtor opinion, we were getting it at 50 cents on the dollar or close to. So we were buying for 200, thinking it should be worth, we were buying for 100, thinking it should be worth 2. And when we walked it, we found out that the neighbor, who is a scumbag attorney, we'll put it politely, had blocked the county right-of-way. Well, it was not actually a right-of-way. It was a platted strip of land that was meant to be a county right-of-way, but wasn't. So it was meant for a future road, and he just took that to be his own. So he had no claim to the land, but he was playing games, and he would not even let the surveyors who went out to survey the land put their pins in the ground. He would not allow them on the property that was not his property, just to mark out where his actual lot line was, because he knew once that was done that he was going to have a problem with his land that he had illegally claimed. And that's the type of stuff you can deal with in Florida. So that literally changes that lot from being worth something to being worth, in my opinion, like 20%, 10% of something. Now somebody's got to go in there and deal with just an absolute scumbag that plays games to clean things up. And there's a certain personality type that wants to do that. And heck, I'd even do it for the right price. But for us, and the price the seller was willing to give us the property, it was just like, no, you either get us the survey, and once we have the survey in hand, now we can just go to the sheriff. But if not, then we can't do this deal. And that deal fell apart because we had somebody walk the property. This whole issue got revealed, and then we had to walk away from the deal. So we actually didn't walk away. We said we wanted to still purchase, but the contract expired and the seller would no longer work with us. So Yeah, I just thought I'd share that story. This is a good little story sharing episode, personal, what are we up to? What am I working on right now? There's way more I could talk to you about, but I'm out of time for today. So I'm going to remind you, if you made it this far, show the channel some love, and know that I do miss having these conversations, one-way conversations with you, and I appreciate you tuning in. And I'm looking forward to doing more stuff like this. I'm still figuring out exactly what my next steps are post the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast, and what that's going to look like. But for now, focusing more on some Instagram stuff. So stay tuned for that. Going to be sharing more stories, and I'll be sharing more reels and stuff about projects we're working on, what we're doing, just trying to get the engagement up and get more interactive with my audience, because I don't want to fall out of touch by any means. So show the channel some love. Make sure you're subscribed on the podcast platforms if that's where you listen. And then the other thing is insiders list. So if you're watching this show, you're a multifamily buyer, or you wanting to be a multifamily buyer, obviously the show's full of gold nuggets, but if you want to get access to the deal of the week, the insider offerings, all that stuff from Jacob, Dave, Zach, and the team, then make sure you use the link below and add yourself to that list so that you can get a contact from them and start getting their deals of the week, start getting all that stuff. A lot of it's going to be very similar to the stuff we evaluate on the show, but you're going to get access to even more stuff that doesn't necessarily make it onto the show. So that's all I got to say for today. Really appreciate you guys, and we'll see you again next week.